Yo, what's good with y'all, man? Welcome back to the channel, bro. It's Swervo Hoops, and today we're gonna be talking about some hoops, man. Now, on the topic of today's video, we're gonna be talking about 5 teams that are gonna surprise us this upcoming season. Now, know this season about to start in October, my baby. I'm excited. You feel what I'm saying? There's a lot of teams that's forming. And to be honest with you, bro, we don't know who's gonna win the chip this year, despite the super teams that's building in Brooklyn and Whoa, what the fuck? And in LA. Really, bro, last year really just showed us that, yeah, injuries are a part of the game, and shit, bro, we really just can't count any team out. Now, with that being said, though, let's get into this first team I got coming up that I think is going to surprise some people. And maybe not, though, because, you know, this team is known for winning championships already. But the first team I had in mind is the Golden State Warriors. Now, this Warriors team, I don't think too many people sleep on it to a point where it's just some, like, off-the-wall shit to say that they're going to surprise some people. But at the end of the day, I do feel like the Warriors is a bit slept on because teams have gotten better since they were winning chips. And, of course, they lost Durant. Now, with that being said, though, they are gaining their second-best player in Klay Thompson back. And although he will be coming back to a new roster in Golden State, can't lie, man, he got his core big three, bro. You got Curry and you got Draymond. They have filled it out with some role players by signing Otto Porter and Nemanja Bjelica this season. And also, they brought Iguodala back for this season as well. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be some championship contenders. The world may never know. But in my opinion, I do feel like they're one of the more slept-on teams, and they're going to make a crazy impact this next season. ESPN had them ranked as 7th in the power rankings, with teams like the Clippers and Denver, who are both dealing with injuries to their best players. So, I mean, it kind of had me confused, but... And if you notice, the Warriors just haven't been in sports media as much. I mean, of course, last season wasn't their greatest season, and they didn't really even make the playoffs. But we can't despite how great Curry is and how great he's going to be going into this season. I'm expecting him and Klay to carry a chip on their shoulder. The Warriors, we haven't seen them be great in the past 3 years, and I think this big three got a lot to prove now. Again, they are getting older, so, you know, Father Time can catch up to the three of them. But they have done a better job of filling out the rest of the roster with some younger pieces. And on top of that, man, I mean, Curry and Klay are both shooters. So despite the injuries they go through in their career or have gone through in their career, I don't think it would affect them drastically to a point where it's unrecognizable to how great they were. Being that they're still going to have their ability to shoot unless something drastic like their hand gets cut off or some shit. But if you know how to shoot, bro, you going to last in this league for a minute. You feel me? Now, I feel like the Warriors... My opinion, man, they might end up being like a 3rd or 4th seeded in the West. I don't know if both Denver and the Clippers will be better than them with Kawhi being hurt and Jamal Murray being hurt. But yeah, man, Warriors, I just wouldn't sleep on them if I was you, man. I feel like they potentially could make the finals. Next up, this might not come as a surprise to many if you've seen my last video on the offseason grades, but in my opinion, the winners of this free agency is the Chicago Bulls. And yes, I 100% believe they're going to surprise some people this next season with the acquisitions of Lonzo Ball, DeRozan, and we can't forget about Caruso. And also last season trading for Vucevic. Although the sample size in which we seen him playing with Levine wasn't large, when they were playing together, the fit just seemed seamless. Vucevic being a pick and pop center and being able to post up and pick and roll as well. And being a center with solid passing vision, which I feel like is another underrated part about the starting lineup for the Chicago Bulls team. 4 out of the 5 players on this starting lineup are really solid or above average passers. And I feel like even with DeRozan's time in San Antonio and how he has grown in his ball handling abilities, his abilities to play in the pick and roll, and his court awareness and passing vision has just taken another element of growth in his time in San Antonio. And I feel like we're going to really see a prime version of DeRozan, being that this is probably the most talented roster he's ever played with, alongside with Levine and Lonzo Ball. And on top of that, although there may be concerns defensively, we have to remind ourselves that free agency isn't done, and they still have potential to sign some free agents that can help them on that side of the ball. Players available in free agency such as Avery Bradley, Wesley Matthews, and we can't forget about Patrick Williams. In only his rookie season, he had shown signs of being a pretty good defender, and we got to see if he can continue to show signs of that in this next season, you know, with him only being a year older, another season under his belt, and alongside Lonzo Ball, who's known for being a good perimeter defender as well. This ain't no super team, but I just have really high hopes for the Chicago team. And this really would be some shit if they really become like mad disappointing and shit like that with all the signings they've made. But yeah, man, this team offensively, I can see them probably being a top 5 offense in this league. And on top of that, just being really good in this Eastern Conference. Now, do I think they'll be good enough to beat a team like Milwaukee or Brooklyn in the conference finals, let's say? We gotta see, because again, with some of their best players, they never really had that deep playoff push or experience to really, you know, show us that they're capable of doing more. Yeah, they just said fuck that whole developing young process. Larry Merkkinen, Kobe White, Wendell Carter Jr., they trying to win now. I feel like Chicago has done an incredible job this past offseason to surround Zach LaVine with some talent on the roster this next season. And I look forward to him taking his next jump as becoming a superstar in this league. And also for Lonzo, because we know he has been a victim of criticism with his father and shit like that since he gotten in the league. So with him having all of that released off of him and all these expectations, and he can just play point guard for a team that believes in him, I feel like we're going to see incredible levels of this Chicago team. And yeah, man, I mean, I ain't expecting it to be a cakewalk in only their first season. Of course, this team has to build some chemistry, but assuming no injuries or no season-ending injuries or some shit like that happens, yeah, this team could, you know, make some noise. Oh, man. Now, with the Knicks, you feel me? The days of them waiting for them to hit jackpot on a pick is finally over, and they are finally making the right steps in direction of becoming good again. I ain't saying they championship contenders by any means, but they are definitely taking the right steps in towards of getting there. You feel what I'm saying? Now, for most of my life, I'm pretty young. You feel what I'm saying? The Knicks have been trash, so for us to see them becoming good again makes me feel old as fuck. But yeah, man, with the recent acquisitions of them getting Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier and them keeping the core parts of their bench and role players, I mean, the Knicks were a 4th seed without the acquisitions that they made with Kemba and Evan Fournier. And they managed to uphold their defensive presence with them bringing in Todd Thibodeau as a coach. And they also brought back Derrick Rose, who was a pivotal part for them in last year's playoffs, as disappointing as it did end for them against the Atlanta Hawks. But, I mean, shit, bro, I feel like the Knicks got even better this past all season, and with the signings they made, I feel like it's going to help them better offensively, because we know, you know, they weren't good on that side of the ball last year either. Although their 3-point percentage from certain players did take an increase, they weren't the best offense. Let's keep it a buck. Julius Randle was the keys to everything, to be honest. And it did work out for them. Like I said, they were a 4 seed in the East, and they made it to the playoffs, which is more that they can say for the past decade. But they acquired an all-star guard. We remember last season they had the worst starting point guard in the league last year, and we know how much of an impact that position plays in today's league. Now they have Derrick Rose coming off the bench as a solid 6-man, and he can fit in either the starting position or off the bench. Evan Fournier adds another layer of shooting and ball handling and shot creation. Julius Randle, I'm assuming, is only going to get better. With no injuries or anything like that happening to any of the players, I still see the Knicks being a really good team in the East. We just got to see, you know. I'm just glad that the Knicks are out of the situation they were in the past. We no longer have to assume or wait for them to make bad contract decisions or for them to sign some random superstar that, you know, would just come to New York. Like, they're making the right directions to be able to set themselves up for a good future ahead of them. So props to New York, and I think they're really going to surprise a lot of people in this next season. Alrighty, now here's for a real surprise to y'all. I got the Washington Wizards coming up next. Now, although they did trade their all-star point guard in Russell Westbrook, I do gotta say what they did get in return for him possibly was the best thing they probably could have gotten for him. And on top of that, I feel like their roster is more well-rounded now. Now, I did mention this in my last video as well, like I said with the off-season grades, where I said that I feel like the shot distribution between the players that they have acquired will be split more evenly now. Now, like I said, although Westbrook is my favorite player, I do know that the dude likes to shoot about 20 to 25 shots a game. And although he did slow down on that even when he came to the Wizards, and he is a great passer, don't get it fucked up. But now the Wizards got more shot makers and more players that can create offense for themselves. Kyle Kuzma isn't excellent in the category, but he can score and get a bucket if he needs be. Bradley Beal, I don't need to do much explaining. Man's averaged 30 points back-to-back years. And with Montrezl Harrell, I feel like with more touches and more finishing around the basket, I mean, it's only natural the dude is going to average over 15 points. He's a pretty solid center no matter how undersized he is. On top of that, they did add Spencer Dinwiddie to a 3-year, $61 million deal. And although, yeah, he will be coming off of injury coming into this season, I do feel like he is like a shade below an all-star caliber player. I can see his ceiling being averaging probably 20 points this season, or at the lowest being like 13 to 15 points, but nonetheless, he is a good offensive guard. I feel like he also provides a little help for Beal in the backcourt, being that he also can create his own shot and own offense. And the only weakness I feel that comes to with this Washington team is that they don't have any good or great playmakers or any good or great defenders. And as we know, Washington has struggled with having a good defensive reputation for like the past 4 or 5 years. Now, again, I do feel like with this Washington team, they have a really solid roster. I mean, they have dudes that can dribble, score, and I mean, that's really it, as vague as that might sound. They definitely could use some more defenders on the perimeter and in the interior, and some more size, and on top of that, some more playmakers. I feel like this team could potentially even make the playoffs as like a 7th or 8th seed. And I feel like they possibly can surprise some people. Now, again, they do got to add some more talent to fill out the bench and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, this team isn't half bad. They still have their weaknesses, but I don't think this team is trash. And I think they could surprise some people next season. It would take some development in some of the young players they acquired. I did forget to mention they did acquire a 3D player in KCP, Rui Hachimura. He seems like he's developing as well, but he could use a 3-point shot and just get better on defensive IQ. Thomas Bryant coming in as well. He could stretch the floor for them, being a starting center for them. And also with Westbrook being gone, I do feel like this will give more ball handling opportunities for a player like Denny to develop, because before he got drafted, he was scouted and was known to be more effective with the ball in his hands, creating shots for himself and others. And I feel like the role that Washington had him in last season, being that Beal and Westbrook are so ball dominant, had him in more of a catch and shooting type of role. And I feel like he was less effective because of it. And he did only shoot 31% from 3 last year, but maybe that improves next season. Who knows? Not least, the next team I got coming up is the Memphis Grizzlies. And yeah, man, I feel like with Memphis, after their performance in this last postseason, really is going to come out next season with not only a chip on their shoulder, but with even more to prove. I mean, we can't forget about Ja in only his first playoffs, averaging 30 points. And despite them losing to the #1 seed in the Jazz, their team is very well-rounded. Although they did lose Valanciunas, and I do feel like that's more of a negative than a positive in my opinion. Adams is the better defender. I feel like Valanciunas wasn't a bad defender. He was pretty solid for them in terms of rim protection. But he was a solid rebounder for them, and he was a good shooter for them. I mean, he wasn't no stretch 5 or anything, but he could knock down the midi or a 3-point shot for them. Whereas even Adams, he's not. He's just gonna be there for pick and rolls and just setting screens. So I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But I feel like Memphis, yeah, they're gonna be better than a lot of people anticipate next season. And I feel like Jaren Jackson didn't really get a full season to really show how much he can really improve, being that he did come into last season pretty late due to the injury he suffered. Possibly becoming an elite versatile defender for them, and also being able to space the floor. And also, outside of Ja Morant having an outstanding first playoff series, Dillon Brooks also showed that he could be another solid scoring option for this team, and also a 3-and-D player. And I feel like this Memphis team is like a new generation of the grit and grind Grizzlies. Ja Morant's attitude and approach to the game, I feel like, bleeds through the culture of this team, and they all just approach their games with this sense of aggression and just not backing down no matter how good the team is. So I look forward to seeing how this young team develops and how good Ja Morant really can be, because I thought he could cap at like a 20-and-10 player, but who knows how good he really can be. And if he continues to develop a jump shot and get even more deadlier with that, we've seen that really was what put them in the playoffs when they beat the Warriors. And if Dillon Brooks can continue to become better as the defender alongside Jaren Jackson Jr., who had high defensive upside, this Grizzly team could look real scary. Now, with that being said, though, that is the end of this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below, you feel what I'm saying? Check out the socials I got in the description, you feel me? And on top of that, subscribe to the channel, bro. I'm about to be uploading consistently. I know y'all see the consistency from your boy Swervo, you feel what I'm saying? But yeah, man, that's really it, bro. I'm gonna holla at y'all. Be safe, y'all, man. Be easy.